What's up guys, and welcome to FPL Today. I'm the man in the know, JNO, and welcome to my team for Game Week 32 Transfer Thoughts, where I go over my team going into Game Week 32 and tell you about the decisions I'm pondering over and the transfers that I might make going into Game Week 32, the double game week, which does mean we have played our free hit chip. So this, my team Transfer Thoughts, is going to be a little different. They're not really fires to put out when I've got a free hit chip. This is literally my take on the game week, me trying to get the most points possible. But the points we are going to cover are, we are going for the big hitters to start off with, and then we might of course alter that a bit closer to the deadline. Aguero versus Sterling for the captaincy armband, and I have considered Hazard, but Aguero and Sterling are most likely going to be my captain in this double game week. The Manchester United situation, as we try and figure out which Manchester United players to get to take advantage of their double game week. And then Watford for value is also an underlying theme in this episode, as you will see that I have two Watford players currently in my free hit side. But before we do any of that, we do look at the fixtures, and we can see that the fixture list and the fixture ease going towards the end of the season has changed slightly. Arsenal now have the best run of fixtures till the end of the season. They have Newcastle, Everton, Watford, Crystal Palace and Wolves, double game week 35, Leicester and Brighton Hove Albion. That is a great run of fixtures with a double and no blank. So if you haven't exactly got all your chips free to take advantage of this period, Arsenal players could be the way for you to navigate this period with no blanks and a double game week up and coming. Then we have Brighton, who now have 3 double game weeks in the space of 4 game weeks. They have Southampton and Chelsea game week 32, a blank, but then they have Bournemouth, Cardiff, then they have Wolves, Tottenham, then they have Newcastle and Arsenal. So lots of fixtures for Brighton. 2 home fixtures in double game week 34, which could be a big one for Brighton, and potentially they have a good run of fixtures which the likes of Glenn Murray and Matthew Ryan and Shane Duffy could take advantage of. Then we got Wolves with Burnley and Man United in game week 32, a blank, Southampton, Brighton Hove Albion, Arsenal, Watford and Fulham. Wolves players, there is a bit of an issue with the FA Cup. We don't know what the rotation is going to be like, so there is a little bit of a worry there. But Wolves players have been very, very good value for money this season. Then we have Spurs, Liverpool and Crystal Palace this double game week, a blank. Then Huddersfield, then Man City and Brighton Hove Albion, then West Ham and Bournemouth. The double game weeks aren't the best because they've got Man City and Liverpool as away games, and they do have a blank. But once you navigate that period, they do have a very good fixture list. Then we have Man City, Fulham and Cardiff next. That is very, very promising. With a blank game week, then Crystal Palace, then Tottenham, Man United, then Burnley and then Leicester. And we also have Southampton with Brighton Hove Albion, Liverpool, Wolves, Newcastle, Watford, Bournemouth and West Ham. Newcastle, Watford, a double game week in 35. Again, similar situation to Arsenal, where they don't have a blank and they do have a double game week up and coming if you are trying to navigate this period without the use of chips and wildcards. And then Man United, Watford and Wolves, then a blank, then West Ham, then Everton and Man City, then Chelsea, then Huddersfield. So Man United players could play a big part in this small period, but then they do also have Man City and Chelsea very close to each other as a fixture. So those are the teams that have the easy fixtures. So what does my team actually look like currently before we actually look over the issues I'm facing? As you can see right now, we have Matthew Ryan and Button in goal. The reason I've gone for this is the cheapest goalkeeper solution to the double game week, to make sure I have a goalkeeper that should play in both fixtures. Now it could be they are rotated, then I only have probably Ryan's points, hopefully from the Southampton game, and then Button plays against Chelsea. I wouldn't want it the other way around. But this way guarantees I have a playing goalkeeper, hopefully. Fingers crossed something crazy doesn't happen. Because this is so cheap, it does allow me to get some big hitters, but I would just like to point out that I do have Deulofeu and Deeney. They are both rotation risks, but the reason I've got them in is because there is a Fulham home game there, which I'm hoping that Deulofeu and Deeney play in, but they might be rested for that one because that looks like the easier fixture, and it's Man United away in the first one. The reason I've gone with them is because their value is so cheap. They're both under 6 million. It allows me to then get the rest of the team into place. Now, if I do downgrade any of these other options, then potentially Deulofeu and Deeney could turn into Crystal Palace players. Of course, depending on how much I downgrade, they could turn into Spurs players, they could turn into Wolves players. Who knows which way I'd go if I do downgrade elsewhere. But because of Deulofeu and Deeney, I do have Aguero and Lukaku up front. Lukaku apparently is fit for this weekend. We then have Sterling, Pogba and Hazard next to Deulofeu. Hopefully Hazard can make the most of this double game week, and then of course you've got Pogba and Sterling. Sterling and Aguero is the big issue right now of who to have the captaincy armband on. And then in defence, thanks to this, I have Laporte, David Luiz and Lindelof. To me, the teams that are most likely to get some clean sheets in this double game week. And of course, Lindelof, Laporte and David Luiz also capable of some attacking returns. It's not highly likely, but with 3 of them, maybe one of them will turn up with some points. I then also do have Hudson-Odoi on the bench. He might get some game time just because the double game weeks are so close to each other, and he is 4.2 million. Yes, there are some very cheap players in this side, and that is just backed up by the fact that Benderak and Valerie are both there as well, but they are literally bench fodder. They have a decent fixture. It is away at Brighton Hove Albion, but they're both 4 million, so they both allow me to spend big elsewhere. So to me, the plus point of this side is, if I suddenly hear Lukaku can't play, it isn't hard for me to go to another striker other than Harry Kane. So I could quite easily go to Higuain, I could quite easily go to Rashford, and then have some money to play with elsewhere. Same goes for any of the defenders as well. If for some reason Lindelof isn't going to play this weekend, and apparently his wife has had the baby now, so Lindelof could play in both game weeks. If Lindelof for some reason can't play, I could also downgrade to a Crystal Palace defender, maybe Jeffrey Schlupp, which would allow me then to spend money elsewhere on potentially upgrading Deulofeu and Deeney. So this allows me to react to anything I hear from the press conferences. Most of the players I have are the most expensive options in their side. So downgrading will be easy, and then that gives me money to move elsewhere. But disclaimer alert, my team could look different by the time the deadline passes. If you want to know exactly what my team looks like when the deadline passes, make sure to follow me on Twitter, where I do post my team just before the deadline. So moving on to one of the first considerations I have, and it is Aguero versus Sterling. Now both are in great form, both have over 50 points in the last 6 games they've played in, and Sterling has just come off of international duty where he's played an absolute blinder, where England have won both games, scoring 5 goals, 5-0 and then 5-1. So Sterling is definitely the in-form option right now, but Aguero isn't exactly slacking behind, and it's very interesting to compare these two. Right now, the captaincy armband for me is on Aguero just because he has been rested over the international break, whereas Sterling has played in 2 games. However, if we look at the underlying stats, you could literally flip a coin. Both of these players could score big. It's a shame there isn't a 2-captainship where you could captain both of them. However, Sterling does have more points with 54 points to Aguero's 52. Some of that might be to do with the fact that he gets more points for every goal he scores. However, Aguero has returned in 4 games out of 6, whereas Sterling's only returned in 3 games out of 6 for City. Goals is 7-5 in Aguero's favour, but of course assists is in Sterling's favour, 4-1. Bonus points are back in Aguero's favour, 9-7. Opponent area touches is the exact same on 44. Attempts on goal, Aguero has more, as he does also with shots from inside the box and shots on target and big chances, with them being 23-17, 18-12 and 12-10. And then big chances is 9-4. However, when it comes to chance creation, Sterling wins out with 10 chances created to Aguero's 3, with big chances created being 3 for Sterling and no big chances created for Aguero. But expected goal involvement is actually highest for Aguero, 5.94 compared to Sterling's 3.93. And according to the stats, Aguero is actually underperforming his expected goals, whereas Sterling is kind of overperforming his expected goal involvement. So for me right now, it's on Aguero, but it's going to be one of those really difficult ones. I feel like if you go with Aguero, you're playing it safe. I think a lot of people will go with Aguero, especially as he has been rested. But if you go with Sterling, potentially that could be a big differential. And anyone outside of these two would be a very big differential. There is some people considering Eden Hazard. I'm not against that. I just don't like Chelsea and Hazard's current form. But the fixtures do lend them towards you potentially captaining Hazard. Because, come on, they're good fixtures for Chelsea. And we know what Hazard is capable of. And maybe it's a weekend or a game week where he does perform and get some big points. But right now, the sensible options are with Aguero and Sterling. We then look at the Man United situation that I've got going on. And the situation is Pogba at 8.9 million and Lukaku at 10.8 are the most expensive options and ways into that Man United side, but they do seem to be the ones with the most points and the most underlying stats. You can take a punt on the likes of Rashford and Martial and maybe others as well, but to me, Martial and Rashford are the most logical punts to take if you don't want to ship out the money for Lukaku and Pogba. Potentially you could have a more balanced team if you have Martial and Rashford, and apparently both will be fit and ready for this weekend. The issue I have with going with either of them is the fact that Rashford doesn't seem in form right now, 14 points 1 return from 6, 1 goal, 0 assists, 1 bonus point. But he does still have the underlying stats, the most penalty area touches out of all of them, the most attempts on goal, second most attempts from inside the box, second most attempts on target, and second most big chances. We've also expected goal involvement of 3.28, which is higher than Pogba's and only less than Romelu Lukaku. With 6 chances created, he's only just behind Martial and Pogba for chances created, and has also created the most big chances with 2. So Rashford has the underlying stats, he just isn't converting them into FPL points. Martial, on the other hand, has 21 points, which is slightly more than Rashford. He has only returned 1 in 6 as well, but he has 1 goal and 1 assist, with also the 1 bonus point. And again, he has more penalty area touches than both Lukaku and Pogba. But he has 11 attempts, the same as Pogba, less than both strikers. 8 shots from inside the box, which is better than Pogba's. 5 on target, which isn't better than Pogba. Then 1 big chance, which is the worst out of all 4 of these players. His expected goals is also the lowest at 1.67, with 7 chances created and 0 big chances created. But then we look at Pogba and Lukaku, both getting 31 points apiece. 3 returns out of 6 for Pogba, 2 returns out of 6 for Lukaku, with both of those being 12-point hauls. 4 goals for Lukaku, 2 goals and 2 assists for Pogba. 6 bonus points for Lukaku, he got 3 in both of his braces. 4 bonus points for Paul Pogba. And then shots from inside the box is where Lukaku stands out with 15, and shots on target with 10, with 8 big chances. That is better than anyone else in this list. With expected goal involvement of 4.25 as well, which is very, very impressive. And then Pogba, 11 attempts on goal, 6 from inside the box, 6 on target, 3 big chances. Expected goal involvement of 2.78 with 7 chances created and 1 big chance created. And you'd expect that he's probably still on penalties. So the issue I have is, do I take a punt? If I do take a punt, then I could potentially have more nailed on playing twice double game weekers instead of my Watford options. Do I want to take that risk when, to me, looking at the underlying statistics, Lukaku and Pogba are the best options? That is something we will find out as we get closer to deadline. But right now I've gone with Pogba and Lukaku because, like I said, it's easy for me to downgrade those two to Martial or Rashford if I need to. And then finally we have the Watford slide. You may have seen this in yesterday's video as well, but this is why I'm going with Deulofeu and Troy Deeney. 5.9 million and 5.6 million. For 2 players that have got 43 points and 35 points between them, both getting 3 returns in 6. 4 goals, 2 assists for Deulofeu, 3 goals, 3 assists for Deeney. They both have good underlying statistics as well. Yes, they are. Yes, I believe they are unlikely to play in both games, but in whichever game they do play, they could get points. And then I also think if they're needed, they will be brought on in the other game, which could potentially be Fulham. And if they need the win against Fulham, I would fancy my chances with Deulofeu and Deeney coming off the bench against a tired Fulham defence. Is it ideal? No. Would I like to really risk both of them? Probably not. I'd probably prefer to have Deulofeu and then maybe change Deeney to a Batshuayi, or if the money was there for someone like Higuain. But it is what it is. We only have as much as we have to spend. But that is my explanation to why there's 2 Watford boys in there. I would like to balance it out a bit more than that, to be honest, but everyone else is more expensive. Anyway guys, hopefully that has given you an insight into my free hit double game week 32 side. If it has, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and hit that notification bell, and make sure in the comments down below to leave your questions. I've been on top of replying to the comments. Let's have a conversation in the comment section down below. Check out all the links in the description if you want to support the channel in any way. And also I just want to quickly say there will be changes for next season, so make sure to stay tuned to everything up until the end of the season and just after the end of the season, because we will have some announcements after game week 38 for you guys to get hyped for the next Fantasy Premier League season. Yes, I'm already preparing. I'm putting in the work now, so I don't have to put in the work later. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.